Welcome to Real Shame. It's a twice, sometimes more week show where we talk about movies from our movie list of shame or movie blind spots. But this week and this month and this season, we're looking at horror movies that one or both of us haven't seen. I'm Adam.
I'm Andy.
And earlier in the week, we did our review on Pumpkinhead, and we're following it up with another movie about, I think we put on our notes, parental grief. And that movie's going to be?
The Changeling.
The Changeling.
Not with Angelina Jolie.
No, the one from 1980.
There's the doctor and his wife. There's the brother Lloyd.
This little girl, Cora, was killed in the street. It was an accident, almost the same as Kathy. What is it in that house, Claire? What is it doing? Why is it trying to reach me?
John.
Is it because of my daughter? I can't go through all this again.
John, you must get out of that house.
So a little bit about The Changeling. It follows George C. Scott as the main character, and he experiences some loss in his life and decides to move to Seattle and take up a post as a music teacher out there in Seattle. The house he moves into might or might not be haunted, and he wants to get into the bottom of that. So that is The Changeling. Yes, no.
No, I like that.
I feel like you're just shaking your head the whole time.
No. I don't know why. I'm in a very giggly mood.
No,
right now.
I'm all about it.
I'm giggling.
So I've never seen The Changeling before. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Okay. Is this a Stone Cold classic?
I think the first time I saw this movie, it's interesting how time changes things. The first time I saw this movie, I was all about it.
Yeah.
Watching it now, I still think it's pretty good. I like it overall, and I think it's definitely worth seeing, but I've definitely cooled some on it since I originally saw it. And I think that's a product of age.
Yeah.
I also think it's just a product of all the different kind of horror films I've seen since then, maybe. This one doesn't have quite the same effect on me as it did. Again, and don't get me wrong, I'm not bashing it at all. I do think it's worth watching. I think it's a worthy kind of old-fashioned ghost story horror film. And it should be seen, and that's why I picked it. I mean, for that reason. But I was going off of memory of seeing it way back when.
I read on IMDb that it was like in Martin Scorsese's like top 11 horror movies and stuff like that.
Really?
So I'm glad you picked
11.
it. Yeah, it was. I think I'm pretty sure it was 11. It was an odd number.
Yeah.
And it was also a prime number. Never mind. Bad humor, I think maybe. I never saw it. I'm with you a little bit. I think the movie hasn't aged very well. I don't think it's as scary and as thrilling as it was when it came out in 1980. But overall, I enjoyed it. It's probably the one I like the most out of this bunch of movies that we done this week. And I thought it was really good and rendered really well and shot very interesting. The thing I would like to see is I want to do not a side-by-side comparison, but I want to do a watching of this with The Shining. Because they both came out the same year. Mm-hmm. They're both about kind of like evil houses. And I feel like a lot of the vibe and a lot of the shots, well, not a lot of shots, but I feel like a lot of the vibe and the way the camera moves are very similar to each other. And I would like to kind of see those see those movies very close to each other and just kind of, compare and contrast between them.
Yeah.
Because there's, some shots that I'm like, this could be echoed a little bit in The Shining, and they do a lot of like, a lot of like establishment shots were from weird angles and stuff like that.
Yeah,
like we get a bunch from like the top of the stairs, and then you have like the ball bouncing down the steps and stuff like that. And I think, and all that kind of, it brought a lot of my thoughts and memories of The Shining in watching this movie. So that's why I'm kind of want to see them two together. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I didn't even think about the fact that The Shining also came out in 1980. That's kind of a good point. And yeah, I can see some similarities between the two. I mean, I don't think either one copied the other or anything like that, but they just happened to come out the same year, and they do kind of share some of the same things.
Yeah, it's kind of like, like Armageddon and Deep Impact. We talked about that. Volcano and
Dante's Peak.
Dante's Peak. You have the same year, same kind of vibe of movie kind of coming out. And I do think these actually share the same kind of theme, I guess. But I do think these kind of share the same kind of vibe more than those other examples that we kind of gave.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, I was going to say, before we get into spoiler territory, the movie is directed by a guy named Peter Medak. I don't know how you say it. He's a Hungarian fella. And still working today, I believe, if IMDb is to be believed, and if my memory is to be served. He's done a lot of TV work since then. I didn't see a lot of theatrical feature films, but he did do Species 2. So he's got that going for him. It stars George C. Scott. I can't remember if you mentioned that or not. And there's kind of a lady that's helping him out through the movie her name is Trish Vanderveer. And the only other person really that I even kind of knew from the movie is Melvin Douglas, because at this point in time, he was pretty old, but he had been acting since the 30s at least. Oh. He's in The Old Dark House from like 1932. So he's the guy that plays the senator fella. Or is he senator? I can't remember.
I think Senator Anderson. I think his last name or something like that.
That's Melvin Douglas. But everybody else in the movie I didn't really recognize.
Same here. I mean, I knew George C. Scott. I didn't recognize his face, but the name is obviously familiar. I looked up and he is
a hustler.
Patton. And he's in the
Hustler.
He's a hustler, which we've seen before. Right. I think he feels very old for his role in this movie. You know what I mean? Like his family, like
they look much younger. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see like him being a parent of her, of the lady, not being
the lady
like,
that plays his wife. Yeah, he should be her dad, and that's his granddaughter.
Yeah,
but
I think that
was his wife and daughter. Yeah.
I think that was the biggest, like, I was like, whoa, that's kind of weird. But I meant, not to spoil anything, you don't spend a lot of time seeing them together on camera, so you don't have to worry about that too much.
Why is that? So this reportedly happened to a guy named Russell Hunter. He stayed in the Henry Treat Rogers mansion. I wrote musician there. Mansion. Spell check or spell autocorrect, something. In the Cheeseman Park area. I'm hungry. Cheeseman Park area of Denver, Colorado in the 1960s. And he wrote about his experience there. And that's kind of how they came up with the Changeling. Yeah, I mean, there's on the Blu-ray, there's a special feature where a guy talks about how it came to be and who this Russell Hunter guy was and all this stuff. And I was only half listening because I was reading something else. But sounded like, I don't know, he had some very interesting ghost-related kind of things happen to him, but who knows? How accurate that was. I
like how all that stuff's rendered in the house and the loud banging and the things getting turned on, like very like poltergeisty kind of things. Not Poltergeist the movie, but like as I know a poltergeist from the movie Poltergeist.
Yeah.
That's a lot. So I like how all that kind of stuff is rendered. I do have some more issues with that kind of stuff, but we'll get into that in spoilers.
And we can do that now. It's 83% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, 79% audience score. Siskel and Ebert gave it 2 thumbs down.
Oh, wow.
They criticized it. Although Ebert in print, he gave it 2.5, which is kind of right there in the middle. And Leonard Maltin gives it 3 stars.
Okay.
So spoiler time.
Spoiler time for the Changeling, guys. All right.
I like this movie. When I originally saw it, you mentioned the ball coming down the stairs. Parts like that, I was like, whoa. Like, I was really, really... And again, maybe that's just because I saw it a long time ago and I hadn't really seen, more kind of horror films or whatever. And I do think that part is affected because basically he has a ball that...
we're in spoilers.
Outside of spoiler territory, we said something bad happens to his wife and daughter. They get creamed by a car right at the beginning of the film.
I mean, it's like the titles haven't even shown yet. It hasn't even showed the movie's titles yet.
Right, and he's in a phone booth. Remember those? He's in a phone booth making a call, and there's an accident, and basically his wife and daughter just get wiped out right then. Yeah. But his daughter had like a little ball, and he keeps this ball and basically in this little almost chest kind of thing with a lid on it. And at one point in the movie, it comes bouncing down the stairs, and it's gone from his little chest.
And that's after he threw it into the river.
Well, first it comes bouncing down the
Oh, yeah,
stairs.
yeah.
Then he's like, "What the hell?" And he puts it back in the box. And then after that, I think is when he
Okay.
throws it. He throws it in the river. He drives back home, and it
it's
comes
gonna
bouncing
bounce, yeah.
down the stairs again. It is a creepy moment, but maybe it's just because I knew about it or
Yeah.
something. I don't know. I wasn't as in awe of it as I was. But I was looking on Reddit probably a few months ago on I think maybe the horror subreddit, and somebody asked, what are some of the scariest moments in movies for you? And so they mentioned like the girl in the closet in The Ring, or the kid on the bicycle and In the Mouth of Madness. And somebody mentioned the ball coming down the stairs in The Changeling. And I was like, oh, yeah, I remember that. Because at that point I hadn't seen it in a while. And I was like, oh, yeah, that was a really, really cool part.
I think if I was younger, that would have been scarier.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was for me.
My biggest issue with this movie is that, well, one thing is when I heard Changeling, I was expecting something like, kind of like cocoonish or extraterrestrial, which it wasn't. But I never feel like we really wrap up the story on where the Changeling comes from or where he is. Like I think they said like in the movie that he came from like another orphanage or something like that. But I think it would have made the movie immensely better if it was like an extramarital affair and he had this child outside of wedlock, and it would have killed his maybe he had a prenup. I don't know how popular prenups were back then, but it would have killed his his rights to that fortune of the wife he married, right? Because that was like the big reason why he had the child, because it all went to the kid, right? So maybe she had like a section in the contract that said he was out if he ever cheated on her. And then so he has this child that is he said has arthritis, so this child that is handicapped. And so like if he would have had this extramarital affair and he had to figure out how to do this child, and so then he kills his handicapped child, and then he goes off to Sweden and raises his own. Like I think that would have made the movie like more interesting and stuff like that, rather than these kind of like, I feel like it's a bunch of disparate pieces that don't really congeal together. And I think like if it would have had that kind of overall story, it would have made it more interesting, I think, of a kind of a movie kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's me and like with my filmmaker kind of whatever hat on.
For me, I mean, there is some red herrings there, because at one point they think that it might be some other family or a ghost of some other kid that was hit by a cart, a horse cart or something, right? But then they find out that so that kind of leads nowhere. Yeah. So if that's what you're referring to, and then when they finally find out, or when he finally finds out who the kid is, or why is there banging coming from upstairs? Why are his faucets being turned on and off? Why are windows being broken way up in the attic with yet another secret passageway?
I know. I was so excited.
It's like Rosemary's Baby. He's like, oh, he found another passageway.
I told Kirby that. I'm like, hey, look, secret closet.
But yeah, I mean, it does get a little maybe convoluted is not the right word, but it's a little more complex, which I think is fine. They have a seance and everything to try and figure out. I think the seance is
kind of cool.
Yeah, and I like the fact that because he's a musician, he records everything, and he records the audio from the seance, and it's only when he plays it back later that he can hear the kids say, Joseph. And chapstick. Oh, sorry, it's a chapstick. That's the wrong movie. That's Mothman Prophecies. But no, I like that stuff. Again, I think that it's where's my medal? Or what does he say? Hey, Dad, where's my medal? Hey, Dad, have you seen my medal? I cleaned my room. I can't find it. No. The movie, it does have a nice...
His room has a bathtub in the middle of it? That seems really awkward and weird.
What?
Like, the kid's room, the bathtub's like right in the middle of it. It's like... It's not even in like a bathroom or a separate room.
I know, that house is huge. They had plenty of places to put that bathtub. What the hell?
And then how mean is the parent, because he's handicapped and he just sticks him all the way up in like the top room. Like,
they don't want to see him. They're like, forget this kid or whatever. But no, in that part with the little wheelchair thing where it kind of wheels after the lady, or when it wheels to the top of the stairs. Those are fun kind of little scenes or whatever. Again, this is a good kind of old fashioned, I feel like, ghost story, because that's what it is. There's a ghost. He's basically haunting this house. People say that ghosts are spirits that have unfinished business. And so in this movie, he's trying to get, in this case, George C. Scott, to figure out the mystery of it all. Like, where is his body? Because they do find the kid's body. They dig it up basically in a well that's on another property. He finds a medal that belongs, an identical copy belongs to the senator. And I mean, we're not going to go into every single plot detail, but there's a lot of kind of detective work going on. And I like that he kind of teams up with the lady and they're kind of helping each other out and whatnot.
A little bit like The Omen, a little bit.
Yeah, that was my favorite part of The Omen is when he teams up with the photographer guy. But I like all that stuff. I am very unsatisfied, though, kind of with the ending, the way that it's all resolved, because it's not really resolved. Yeah, I mean, it's like he goes, he confronts the senator, and the senator's just like, don't tell anybody about this or I'm going to kick your ass. And then he leaves.
He gets possessed by the metal or something like that, and walks to the house.
But he doesn't actually, because he flashes back to, and he's actually just having a heart attack in the office or whatever. So that was a weird vision that George C. Scott had, and a weird vision that he had, and
then Joseph can flip over a police car.
Okay, so that's a huge. I can't stand that scene because Joseph doesn't kill anybody in the movie. He definitely scares the crap out of them, but he somehow kills this guy, this detective guy that comes to the house. I can't stand that part. It's really ridiculous. And it cuts to the guy just upside down, making a weird face. He's just like, I was like, that's stupid and completely unnecessary and really abrupt and just comes out of nowhere. Because again, it doesn't fit with this kid. The kid wants George C. Scott, who's also lost his own child as well as his wife. So they're kind of kindred spirits. They're two of a kind here. I don't know. And he wants George C. Scott to bring his story out into the open, which he kind of does, at least with the lady that he's working with, but he's forbidden really to say anything else, and probably is not going to say anything else. Probably once the house burns down, he's just going to be like, all right, let's just never speak of this again.
Yeah, and that was the other thing. My biggest complaint also, in addition to everything else I said,
my other biggest complaint
is like, George C. Scott is renting this house. At some point, I would have been like, yeah, I don't want to rent this house anymore. It wasn't worth it. Like, I can understand, like, if he moved in, he bought it, and he feels like, well, now I got to take care of it because it's my house. But it's like, really, like, dude, you've been here for like 2 weeks. Just like pack up and go. Like, it's not worth all this effort.
Well, that's how Eddie Murphy in his Delirious comedy special.
Oh, really?
He's like, I just don't get when the people that like, because he talks about the Amityville Horror. He's like, they come into the house and they hear "get out," and they're like, that's weird, but they stay. He's like, if that was me and I walked in and I heard a voice going, "Get out," I'd be like, all right, too bad I can't. Too bad we can't stay. Yeah. No, he probably should have just been like, oh, you know what? This doesn't really suit me.
Yeah.
I should go somewhere else.
It wasn't like there wasn't any other houses he could have done to me. He just looked at one place because this lady just randomly chose it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But yeah, again, overall, it's good. Yeah. We definitely have some quibbles with it here and there, but I think it's a nice, I can't stress this enough, kind of old-fashioned ghost haunting kind of story. And if you have never seen it before,
we watch. Hopefully, you're not seeing this part if you've never seen it before.
Well, yeah, right. If you've listen to us talk about I didn't like that, then you're probably like, oh, screw these guys.
But if you have a friend that hasn't seen it and you like it, we definitely give it a thumbs up and recommend. Even though we have,
I like it overall.
Even though we have a few nits to pick with it.
Yeah.
All right. So that was our review on The Changeling. If you feel different, if you like it, if you think the ball is scary, or if you think George C. Scott should have just packed his bags immediately, shoot us an email, let us know. realshame@gmail.com. Leave us a comment below if you're watching us on YouTube. Like, subscribe, comment, because that stuff really does help. And stay tuned as we give you more horror movies for this Halloween season. And we'll see you next time, guys. Thank you.